So one of my all-time favorite non-comedy jobs that I had was I managed a black nightclub owned by an Ethiopian in the 80s in Washington D.C. It was a great gig. And there was this Ethiopian guy who Americans called Tesfai, but the Ethiopians used to call him Tsfai. And Tsfai owned the club, and his kind of dream or his vision was to create this upscale black nightclub in a market in DC where there wasn't anything really like that then. Like this place had 5 floors, you know, different DJ from New York on each floor. It'd be like the hip hop floor and the reggae floor and the the R&B floor and the jazz floor and then the world music, whatever that Pier 1 music is floor. But it was a cool spot. Typically before that, there was the clubs were, I mean, they were kind of rough, man. There was the Ibex Club and the Chapter 3, which is always shut down because there's always someone getting shot at the Chapter 3. And then there was the Black Hole, which, kind of truth in advertising. There was, not a lot of luxury at the Black Hole. So Spy had this, they created this thing, and I was the manager of it. And I had a lot of crisis management that I had to deal with, like Saturday night the fire marshal shows up and he's got 3 hookers with him and he wants to drink. All of them were drinking for free that night, or he's going to shut the place down. So you got to take care of the fire marshal. Or there was always one guy who would come to the front of the line on Saturdays and say he was Heavy D. Do you know who I am? Say he was Heavy D, and he looked mildly like him. And then I'd have to be like, can you take off the sunglasses? He'd take off the sunglasses, and the eyes were, he didn't have that Heavy D eye. Rest in peace, Heavy D. But he didn't have that was the thing. You don't have the Heavy D eye, bro. You're not fucking Heavy D. You're like Heavy C. So there was that guy. There was just stuff like that I had to deal with. And I would. There was I got along with everybody. I got along with all the Ethiopians that worked there. Spy staffed the place with 95% Ethiopians because he didn't trust Americans, and I would hang out with them, eat the food at the end of the night. The injera, it's like a kind of pancake bread thing that you use as the plate, and then you rip off a piece and you dip in the sauce. Essentially, you're eating your plate. So very sustainable. Tibbs, which is like a kind of a brisket thing, is delicious, and then you drink this tej, which is this honey wine. It's like a mead, and you get fucking lit off the tej. It was great. I chill with these guys, and there was one dude who did not like me, and he didn't like the Ethiopians either. There was this other American that worked there, that worked in an office, and he was the phone guy. Like if there was somebody who needed to use the phone, you would have to go to his office. Rashid. He was very irritating, so I used to call him Rash. And he had this phone in his office, but he would never let the employees use it. You come to the office, he'd be like, phone's off limits. You get out, I'll bust your shit. Get out of here, I'll bust your shit. He was just always in a bad mood. So he didn't like the Ethiopians. He pissed them off because he went on this whole tirade about Haile Selassie one day. He's like, y'all talk about Haile Selassie. Name one song that motherfucker sung. One song. I don't even know. Haile Selassie. So they got very offended by that. And they used to call him Kolet Feet. And Kolet Feet was like a Amharic, I guess the equivalent's kind of like dick face. I don't know, but they call him Kolet Feet. He never knew what that meant. So all that's going on, right? So one night, a spy comes up, bartender didn't show up. So I have to jump behind the bar on the first floor and bartend. He's like, bartender, don't just, and there was a crisis, and the crisis was there was no Hennessy left. And if you have no Hennessy in a black nightclub, I can't even quantify what that's like no soy sauce in a sushi, that's like no fish in a sushi place. That's what it's like. So we broke out all this tej from the basement, and hope that would work to cover the catastrophic Hennessy shortage debacle. And then I hear testify, it's Spy talking to these other guys, all the Ethiopians. He's like, Coke bottles falling out of the sky. It's crazy. And he comes to me and he's like, tonight, big celebrity coming, whatever he want, for free, and he takes off. He's running. He's always drinking coffee. Guy's on fire, right? Doesn't tell me who this celebrity is. So midnight, I'm chilling behind the bar, trying to score a tip, and a big stretch limo pulls up to the front of the club. All these big guys get out. They go into the back. One dude comes up. He's like, "What y'all got to drink? Got that Hennessy?" I'm like, "We don't have any Hennessy, but we got this Tej." So he's like, "Give me like 20 of them Tejas, right?" So guy takes the Tejas in the back. Dudes are pounding the Tej, and I see right in the middle of those guys is standing, drinking, the Tej, is Mike Tyson, right? So Mike Tyson comes up to the bar, starts talking to me. He's like, "Yo, what is this shit? It's delicious." I'm like, that's called the Tej. And he's like, "Well, where's this from? I never heard of it." I'm like, it's from Ethiopia. He's like, "I didn't know they had food in there and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, they got food. You can eat the plate. It's great." So he's like, "Give me 20 more Tejas." So boom, give him the Tejas. We're selling the Tejas like crazy. He goes off to another part of the club, right? About an hour later, my girlfriend, who was a waitress at the time she comes over. She's like, "There's some guy." She looks really upset. She's like, "There's some guy, he keeps putting his hands on me. He won't let go, He's just being rough with me." I'm like, what guy? What guy? Where?" And she goes, "There he is, right over there." And she points to the end of the bar, and there, sitting there, is Mike Tyson. And he's like, "More Tej!" And so now she's like, "Well, do something." So I'm like, "Okay, yeah, it's Mike fucking Tyson. What do you want me to?" So I start walking over there. I'm preparing a speech. "Good evening, Mr. Tyson. The policy of the Ritz is no finger blasting female employees against the will. Does not engender goodwill in the community and creates adverse." I'm just kind of, and before I can say anything, he's like, "Hey, listen, is there a phone in this? I need to use a phone." I'm like, "Oh yeah, just go in that office and ask for Rash," right? Mike Tyson goes to the office. Now Rash doesn't follow boxing. Had no idea. Probably the only guy in D.C. didn't know who Mike Tyson was. Thought he was like a new employee. So Rash is like, Mike Tyson goes to the office. Rash is like, "Man, get the fuck out of the office before I bust your shit." And Mike Tyson clocks Rash, knocks him out. Entourage leaves immediately. The police come. Rash is talking about he was assaulted. All the Ethiopians, nobody saw anything. Everybody's like, nobody knew anything. So for the next few weeks, though, right when the club, before it would open, I get all the staff together. We'd go over to Rash's office. I'd knock on the door. He'd be like, "Who is it?" And I'd be like, "It's Mike Tyson. Is there a possibility that I can make a long distance call?"